Okay. Love you.
Welcome to Beyond the Voices, a podcast where impactful conversations spark change, amplify unheard stories, and inspire actions. Here, we give voices to the change makers, the dreamers, the doers, and those who are shaping a better world. Whether it's innovation, advocacy, or personal journeys, every voice matters. Each week, we bring you compelling stories, deep insights, and transformative ideas from thought leaders, activists, and everyday heroes from around the globe. From untold stories of resilience or perspectives, Beyond the Voices is your destination for meaningful conversations that leave a lasting impact. If you're ready to be inspired, challenged, and moved, this podcast is for you. Beyond the Voices, where impact meets inspiration. Welcome to another episode of the Beyond the Voices podcast with your host, Charlene Clark Cura. Now, today we will have a very interesting guest on our virtual coach. And this is none other than Dr. Sue Collins, known as the Mind Mastery Architect. She is a powerhouse of knowledge and transformation. She holds the 5 advanced degrees, including a JD, PhD, and Bachelor as well. And she brings a rare blend of academic excellence and spiritual wisdom to her work. Dr. Sue is also trained in several alternative healing modalities, including pranic healing, and is a certified master life coach, meditation instructor, and she is a practitioner with the wealth of knowledge that we need to hear today. We need to learn about today in order to grow better, become better, and be wiser. With her extensive background, Dr. Sue specializes in helping women overcome limiting beliefs, shatter inner glass ceilings, and master their minds so they can rise into their purpose and achieve their greatest goal. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome to our virtual coach, Dr. Sue, the Mindset Mastery Architect. Today, our discussion will be very mind blowing. It will be very informative, and I'm sure you will enjoy this discussion. Dr. Sue, welcome to our platform, and thank you for saying yes to the Beyond the Voices podcast. If there is anything that I've missed, give us a little bit more, about who Dr. Sue is. I'm not sure if I did
My
you
goodness.
justice.
You did more than justice. Thank you so much. I am so grateful to be here. I feel that I am on a divine mission to share the knowledge that I've gained over all of these years. And so I got chills just thinking about it. I was thinking earlier today that I wish that I had known when I was younger what I know now. And so I feel very much obligated. It is my responsibility to the extent that I can to share the knowledge that I have. So I'm grateful that you invited me. Thank you so much.
You are welcome. It's a pleasure. Funny you say that, you wish you knew then what you know now. But it's everyone's story. We're never smart when we're young. We're young and just want to experience the world and just be free and be stupid. And as soon as we get older, we're like, wow, if I knew this, I would be a better person now. But it's life.
It is. It
But Dr.
is.
Sue, what inspired you to focus on mindset and personal transformation?
It's been a very long journey. So let me start at the end.
Right.
I have those 5 degrees that you mentioned, and
Mhm.
I retired from the university as an emeritus associate professor in 2015. I
Mm.
retired early because I had reached a point that I was ready to leave the university, but I had the stories in my mind telling me that I couldn't go anywhere else, that I didn't know enough,
Oh,
I wasn't smart enough, I wasn't all of the negative things. And I did
wow.
not understand at a very deep level, I did not understand how it could be that someone with my credentials, and I'm not bragging. If you look at my Vita, my resume, then I have done a lot of things. I've achieved
I
more
see.
things than many people will ever achieve. But yet, in spite of that, I still felt inadequate. And so I embarked on a mission to understand.
Mhm.
At that point, I didn't have a name for it, but embarked on a mission to understand, what is it that holds me back? Why can I not achieve what I felt was my next level of greatness?
Mm.
So that's where I started from. And I, I went down a very circuitous road. I went into the energy healing world, which is the metaphysical world,
Mhm.
trying to understand spiritual metaphysics. Who am I? Why am I here? What is my purpose? From there, I went into human behavior, which was something that I had studied many years ago. And then
Mhm.
I discovered neuroscience and
Mhm.
quantum physics. Now, I'm not a
Right.
quantum physicist, but I was fascinated by what we're learning about the brain, which is important because so often, number one, we don't think about what we're thinking. We don't think about why we're thinking that. And we don't realize that just like a computer, we're running a program. And it is our programming, often from our very early years when we're children. It is the programming that we receive in those first 7 years or so that ultimately is still running as adults. And so the limitations that I have,
Right.
and I believe that many others of us have, are things that were programmed in when we were children, and we're just
Exactly.
living out the
Exactly.
program.
Exactly. We live based on how we're programmed, and we get so afraid and that is why change, that is why it is always so difficult for us to accept change, because of the anxiety that comes with it. Because if
Mhm.
you're programmed to doing things a particular way, believing a particular way, for that change to happen, you have to deprogram yourself. And that is where the
Yes.
anxiety and fear comes, because we're programmed that this is how this is done. And in our mind, we're thinking, wow, what if I do it differently? Would I be successful? What will
Mhm.
others think of me?
Mhm.
Would I achieve the goals? Because you're
Mhm.
programmed. But who does the programming though? And whose responsibility is it for us to deprogram ourselves? And at what point do you believe you need that refresh? I want to call it.
Mm.
That is something to think about. Who is responsible for the programming? And
So,
if someone or someone's are responsible for the programming, then why is it that we have to abide by this program?
mm, mm. Although, those are such powerful questions, and let me just begin with the who does the programming. Even before we are born, when we are in utero, then many times our parents are saying things, oh, what a beautiful boy I'm going to have, what a beautiful girl I'm going to have. And we, as most people, don't really understand that even though a child is in utero, they know what's going on. They hear.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think it is that a child, if a mother sings to her child,
Oh,
when
Lord.
the child is in utero, when the child is born, it recognizes the mother's voice. So
Voice,
the
yes?
programming starts even before you're born.
Yes.
And I don't know how deep your audience is, so I'm not going to take you on a metaphysical journey, but I will say this: for those who believe in reincarnation, there is that philosophy that you live many lifetimes, and that
Mhm.
you come into this world with certain knowledge, and so you've been programmed even before you come into this world. But I will just
World.
start with, when you are in utero, we have hard science that shows that the child responds to the energy and the voice of the parents. And so
Ex-
you're the subconscious mind is like Teflon. It picks up everything. As you're walking by someone and you hear a conversation, you pick that up,
Mhm.
even though you may not be
Mhm.
conscious of it. So
Right.
who are the originators of the programming? You've got your parents, you've got your
Mhm.
friends, you've got your siblings, you've got the various institutions in
Mhm.
society, whether it's church.
Society at large.
Yes. So there is a lot of programming going on that you're not even aware of, and yet it sticks like Teflon, and you have these beliefs that you think are yours, and you say, "Oh, well, this is just who I am." But no, it's not.
Not.
Now, as a child,
Mhm.
you don't have much choice over that, because
Exactly.
you're kind of at the mercy of your parents and of society. But when you know better, you do
Exactly.
better. You know
You
better,
do
you do
better.
better.
It's funny. I like to share stories with my guests. Yes, and I'm
Yes.
gonna do the same with you, right? When I was pregnant, because I am aware of these things and I try to do things differently. Try. And I remember when I was pregnant, and I like music. So there are two things I used to do while I was pregnant. I used to read a lot, and I
Mhm.
used to dance and listen to my music during pregnancy. And other things, I used to talk to whatever is going on in the womb, because I didn't know if it was a boy or a girl until the baby was born. And so I remember I was visiting my dad, because I'm always singing, and there's one particular song I used to sing to him at nights. Yes. I remember one evening I was visiting my dad, and there was a traffic block up, and we were there sitting for like 45 minutes before we could move. But there was a bar close by, and the bar had this sound system. In Jamaica, how they do it. Yes, the bar had
Yes.
this sound system on the outside, these huge speakers, and it was blazing some true reggae, nice reggae, clean reggae.
Yeah.
And the
Mhm.
baby, it was dancing in my womb. I could look down, and I could see his feet moving. And I was like, oh my God, because it recognized music.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
fast forward to after he was born. Like I said to you, there was a song, I love you, you love me, we're a happy
I
family.
know.
Go on. That song I used to sing to him, well, every night. And when he was born, I continued. And today, even when that young boy, he's now 12, even when he's angry and he's throwing a tantrum at 12, he's upset at certain thing. As soon as I begin to sing that song, it calms him down. He just look at me,
Ah.
and he sits down and he's looking at me, and he's a different person. So you're correct. We are not aware of the things that we do, before the child becomes a child, right? And we believe that, oh, we're pregnant, and so whatever is going on inside of us is not aware of what is going on outside of us. But you're correct. It starts it starts
Yes.
before then, but it continues there. And
Yeah.
we have to be cognizant of that, because if we really do want change, that's where we need to begin, from there, and not after birth, or
Yes.
not during toddler stage, or not during adolescent stage, or not during adult stage, because that time it will be harder. Thank you. I just wanted to share that with you. But here's my question. What does mastering your mind really mean in practical terms?
In practical terms, it really means becoming aware. Become aware of what you're thinking. Because so often it's like we get caught up on a roller coaster of thoughts, and those thoughts release certain energy, which release certain chemicals within our body, and we spiral downward, right? If there are
Mhm.
depressing thoughts, negative thoughts, then we don't stop to think, do I really have to think that? And so
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
to say between the thought and the action, there is a space, but we
Right.
have gotten so used to acting fast that the space is collapsed. And what I'm saying is open up the space, have the thought, take
Mm-hmm.
a breath or two or three, and become aware of what
Mm-hmm.
you think. That puts you in a state of choice. Do you have to think that? Is that really what you want to think? Because keep in
Mm-hmm.
mind that first thought typically is going to be your subconscious mind, which is based on the programming, but your subconscious mind is keeping you safe in that box, which will have you going around and round with the same thinking. If you want to do something different, you have to have a different intention based on your awareness. Interrupt the thought and replace it with something else. And we can talk about this a little later, but this is where your positive affirmations come in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, it's we're talking a lot about the mind, the mindset, and how you train your mind. How do our thoughts though shape the way we experience life and success? Because if it starts here, well, it starts before that, but it continues here, then we have to be aware of how the thoughts that we have here can shape what happens around us. Tell me a little bit
Oh,
about that.
absolutely. Absolutely. I like the way you frame that because I'll tell you this story and then I'll talk more about it. When I first started to study metaphysics, I would hear that your thoughts create your reality.
Mm-hmm.
And I had no clue what that meant. I was very much opposed to the thought that I was creating my own reality because I thought I was going through some things, some life issues. And I thought, I didn't create this. I didn't create this. Um, but what I have learned as a result, not only of my studies, but of just lived experiences, is that how you, going back to the subconscious mind and the programming, that
Mm-hmm.
is what is determining your perspective. If
Mm-hmm.
you are raised in a family that argues all the time, that does not understand how to, that it has limited resources in terms of how they handle conflict, then you
Mm-hmm.
learn how to handle conflict the way they learn how to handle conflict. Your
Yes.
thoughts, because you were programmed by them, your thoughts are their thoughts that are simply coming out of your mouth. So you see things based on what you think. If you walk into a room and you walk in with the idea that nobody likes me, I'm not good enough,
Mm-hmm.
uh, they're going to laugh at me, then you will identify the one person or persons who don't like you.
Mm-hmm.
You also will pick up on the energy that is supportive of your thinking. So if you want to create a different reality, then you have to have different thoughts. And the low vibrational thoughts that are going to keep you in a negative space are thoughts like anger and envy and hatred and jealousy. Energetically, those are low vibrational thoughts. If
Mm-hmm.
you operate from a place of love and gratitude, then your energy changes and you tend to see love. You tend to
Mm-hmm.
see, regardless of what the other person may or may not be doing, you tend to be able to see what I call the God spot within that person, which is love.
Awesome. Is it that simple? I'm thinking about myself, and as much as I try, I can tell you I have I have a different mind. But as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking, is it that simple though, Dr. Sue? I mean, like walking in the room filled with people, let's say a meeting room filled with people, you're walking with confidence and you tell yourself that, listen, everyone in this room are interested in what I have to say. They are into what I'm about. They respect me. I mean, is it that simple to frame the thought like that for it to happen out there in the universe? Or it takes a little bit more than
I don't
that?
want I don't want to imply that it's simple. What I
Mm-hmm.
want to share is that given the way we are raised,
Mm-hmm.
given the programming that we have, it is
Mm-hmm.
difficult because the
Oh,
initial thought that
yeah.
you can change the way you
Yes.
think, that you
Yeah.
have some control over your reality, that is a
Yes.
huge hurdle to overcome,
To
because
overcome.
we're programmed to believe that things happen to us, that the world is
Right.
out there happening to us, when what
To
I'm
us.
seeing is
Mhm.
the world is in here based on how you see it.
You
And
see it.
with
Mhm.
regard to the energy, oh goodness, this gets, I don't know how deep you want to go. I'm just gonna, you can tell me what your audience can and cannot
No, no,
address.
no, no, no. You can go deep because I mean I'm so intrigued by what you're saying, and I'm sure our audiences will be as well. I mean, it is very intriguing, and if we learn as much as we can, we lead a better life, a less stress life, because stress
Yeah.
comes from all these things that we do to ourselves.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
and we do it to our.
let me say this. When you were introducing me, you said that I have a JD, a PhD, and a B, and you said bachelor's degree. So that is a
Mhm,
bachelor of metaphysics.
mhm.
So I have a degree in metaphysics, and I focus on spiritual metaphysics.
Right.
Metaphysics is huge; it's a philosophical kind of degree. But what what metaphysics is, the spiritual metaphysics is about understanding that we are a part of this universe,
Right.
not just a physical universe, but the universe that has no beginning, has no end.
Mhm.
And it is that we come with certain knowledge because we have lived many lifetimes. Now, for some people, this is a far stretch, and it's okay. Sometimes you have growth is about pushing against the limits that you already have imposed based on your programming. So I'm going to ask you just to bear with me, so,
Sure, sure,
uh,
sure.
but from a metaphysical standpoint, what we have learned is that scientists are now catching up with what the mystics have already ways known, and they're doing it by virtue of the inroads that they're making in quantum physics and
Mhm.
in neuroscience. Well, quantum physics talks about energy, and one of the things it says, there is this major experiment which changed the way scientists looked at energy, looked
Right.
at let's say molecules, and it's called like I can't remember the name of what they call, but the scientists wanted to know how these energetic things move. And so
Right.
what they found is that when the science was observed, when the scientist was observing the energy, it moved one way. It moved in like a straight line. But when they stopped observing it, then it split and went in two different directions.
Oh, wow.
So
You say
what
that
that
would be
tells
like confusion?
say it again.
Could you say that would be like confusion, like when you're not so
Well,
sure?
that could be, and let me just finish this little line that where I was going with it first. What they learned, what the site they did the experiment a couple of times, well, a few times. It's a major experiment, and every time they learned that, going back to you create your reality, when you are looking at something, you see it one way. But when you take your focus off and
Oh,
you allow energetically, you allow it to unfold, then it unfolds, as I like to think of, according to a divine plan.
oh.
So now your question was, tell me again your question.
Now I was
Oh, you
thinking
asked
you
about
you said
confusion.
that when they were observing the energy, when your focus it goes one way, when you lose, when they lose that kind of focus, it shift, the energy shifted, it goes different ways. And I was trying to ascertain whether or not that could be confusion in the of the mind. You're not so sure of, when you're sure, the energy will take you based on your focus and your decision and the path based on what you're thinking. So I say, well, then I'm sure I will meet this goal, and so the energy will be there. But when I am unsure, well, yeah, I have a goal, but this will stop me. enough or this is not happening, then the energy splits. It goes different ways because your focus is not direct either. So that is what I was trying to, as I listened deeply, I was trying to understand if it could mean something like that.
Well, I think that it could. I think that there are multiple layers of meaning. And,
Right,
and and
right.
what I was sharing is simply that scientists used to be, they were so sure that if they did this experiment, they were so sure that it was going to progress a certain way. And they were
Oh,
shocked to find out
then it
that when they
didn't.
took their attention off of it, that it split. It went in multiple directions. But speaking to what you are the point that you're raising, what we know is energy, where you focus your energy, that's what you produce, that's what grows. And
Exactly.
so with regard
Exactly.
to seeing the energy going in a straight line, when the scientists looked at the energy, it was going in a straight line. They focused their attention there, and that's where that was the thing that they actually brought into being. And so when you think about, you create your reality, what is the reality that you're trying to
That
create?
you're creating. Yes. Oh my
If
God.
let's say your people that are coming to you all, they want to be speakers, right? Or they
Right.
want to do a particular thing, and so they're focusing all of their energy on that, which means that they're more likely to have success because they're doing the work. This is where
Right.
all of their energy is concentrated. But
Right.
if they want to speak and be a lawyer and be a doctor and be a baseball player, then the energy is scattered, which means that the
Awesome.
likelihood that they're going to succeed in any one of those things is significantly diminished.
Diminished. Exactly. Wow. I like it. Oh my Lord. You're never too old to learn because I learn every time I sit on this virtual couch. I learn from my guests, and thank you very much because I can see myself applying some of the things that you are saying. Anyways, let me get out of myself.
May I say one other thing?
I
Let
forgot
me
for
just
a
say this.
moment thinking that all this was for me. It's not for me, it's for my audience. Let me not be selfish. But
If I may, let me just say that based on my lived experience as well as my studies, if you want to achieve a goal, you must focus all of your energy on that. And
Mhm.
that's not to say that you give your life to that one thing, but in terms of your creative efforts, the energy should be focused on that one thing. Because when you're scattered, you're dissipating the energy. You're trying to spread it out over 4 or 5 things, which means that you don't have enough energy really to bring this thing into being. And you get discouraged because why is this not happening? Why is this not happening? Because it's not,
You're
it is
scattered.
happening. It's
Yeah.
just very slow. But if you would concentrate on this, then you'd have much greater and more quicker results.
And that well, perhaps you would have answered the question because I was thinking to myself, why so many women. Well, you have a program, for women. You have a focus on women, but why do we struggle with internal barriers? Why is it so hard for us to break free? Again, like I said, perhaps you would have answered it because we are not focused directly on that one thing that we want to accomplish because of many reasons. There are so many
Yeah.
reasons, but let me turn it over to you. Why do you believe we struggle with such internal barriers and to find it so hard to break free from these internal barriers? Because, like you said, we create our reality.
I think that our reality, we do create our reality, but it is based on a faulty foundation. And it is
Mm-hmm.
a faulty foundation that is built by others long before we have capacity for critical thinking, long before we have the ability to decide for ourselves. One of the questions you asked me earlier was related to, well, whose responsibility is it to change? And I said, when you know better, you do better. So for those
Mhm.
of you who are listening, if you did not know better, if you did not know that you have the ability to control your thoughts and therefore to rearrange and or recreate your life, now you do know. And a
Right.
question is, so how do I do that? Well, you
Mhm.
become aware of what am I thinking? And you may say, well, how do I do that? Look back over, everything is in patterns. Look back over the patterns of your life.
Mhm.
When you are confronted with adversity, how do
How
you
do
respond?
you
Do you
respond?
react or do you respond? Right? React means you
Mhm.
do it fast without thinking. Respond
Right.
means that
Knee
you take
jerking
that
reaction.
space.
Mhm.
Mhm. And so typically we govern ourselves the same way in every situation, right? It's because that's the way we've been programmed to do it. And the subconscious mind is doing its job. It's going to keep you acting the same way you've always acted. This is how we
Exactly.
get into a discussion of habits or habitual behavior. This is how we get also into a discussion of neuroplasticity, which it
Mhm.
used to be that scientists thought that the brain couldn't be changed. Now we know that you can create new neural circuits, new neural pathways. An example is, so often here's an example. At the beginning of every year, a gazillion people are going to say, I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to stop smoking, I'm going to do
Oh my
and
Lord,
this
you
and
need
this.
to read my blog on it. You need to read my blog on it, Dr. Sue. But continue.
They're going to say all those things, right? And in January, they're going to be motivated. In February, they're going to be In March, they're going to be, I give.
Oh, I'm done.
Now you might want to ask yourself, which I asked myself, well, why is that? Why is that? Because what we knew is that it takes 21 days to create a habit. That we used to think that was gospel from a scientific standpoint in terms of creating habitual behavior. What the scientists now are saying is that, yeah, it may take 21 days to begin to create that habit, but it takes anywhere from 6 months to a year even to actually have it become integrated or ingrained in you so that you embody it. And so if you
Exactly.
think about that, it's 21 days. Well, January has 30 days, 31 days. Uh, February has,
Plus 20,
depending, 28, right?
39 if you do
So
it in the year.
so if at the end of the 21 days you're doing what I used to do, oh, I created a habit. Okay, I did. But a month from now, it's like, well, now I'm eating cake again. So,
Because
I
the
mean,
habit of eating cake was created for a longer period. Think about it.
exactly.
The habit of eating cake was created for a longer period, and in order to break it, you have to now you need a longer period to create that new habit that will take you away from eating cake. If you've been eating cake for 10 years, you cannot use 21 days to create a habit to take you away from eating
No,
cake. Nah, it's not gonna work. It's not
no.
gonna work.
It
You know, I have a blog on my website about it, about this New Year's resolution. People be like, "Oh, what's your New Year's resolution?" I said, "I don't make them. I don't believe in
yeah,
them." No, because a resolution is like a promise, and promises are easily broken. You know, what
yeah.
I do, I have my objectives, I have my goals, and I have my mindset. Now, for me to say, well,
Mhm.
then I'm fat in December, and I'm eating all those cake, and I'm drinking all those wine, I'm participating in the Christmas fever. Why am I going to make a resolution in January to get slim? It's not going to happen. What
No, no.
happen? You find that the things that you do daily that are habitual are the things that are hardest to break, because we want some quick fix to break those habitual things that we do in a short time. And that is why we fail at it. That is why.
Exactly.
Mhm.
I agree. And from a practical standpoint, I know that you want your audience to have some practical information. So
Mhm.
from a practical standpoint, I need you to understand this. you can break the habit. You can break old habits, you can create new habits. You begin with an awareness, become aware of what the habit is. Do a little deep dive in terms of reflecting what is it that gave rise to that habit. Because if you are eating too much, then typically there's something else that underlies that. Maybe it is that you don't feel you need some comfort, some nurturing, and you're not getting it. Maybe it is that you feel isolated and alone. So don't just think about why that I'm eating this and why am I eating it. Go deeper, dive deeper. In my program has 5 phases. The first phase is reflection. You've got to know where you've been. Don't stay there, but you got to know where you've been in order to understand where you are now. The second phase is reimagination. When we were kids, we were taught to dream. Oh, dream big. You want to be a doctor, a lawyer, a fireman. Oh, oh yeah, you can be all of those things. But slowly we began to be herded into a single lane. You can't do that. And we began to internalize all of the negative beliefs related to those very dreams that initially we were praised for. So
Right.
the third phase is release. What are those negative thoughts that you now embody? That's what I call the distance between the reflection and the reimagination is what I call the transformation gap. That really is where the work happens. As you go deep, it's like, here's my slinky. I like to say, the higher you go up, the deeper you go down. The deeper you go down in terms of reflecting on who you are, the higher you go up. And so this transformation process, it's not linear. It's like a slinky, and you may keep coming back to the same thing, but now you're coming back to it from a different perspective. The fourth part of the program is about reprogramming. This is where you learn to, after you've identified the thought or whatever it is, now you interrupt the pattern. uh, Failure, to the extent that there is such, leaves a track record. So does success.
Right.
Both of them involve practice. Even if you say, I'm a failure, if you say, I can't do this, you're practicing failing. Now, an aside to that is that I don't believe in failure. I think that what we call failure is simply learning what doesn't work so that you can learn what does, right? And
Right.
so when you are having these failure thoughts, that's negative energy that's creating a habit. You're creating the habit of thinking negative thoughts. Now you need to be aware of that, interrupt it. I do something as simple as interrupt the pattern, interrupt the thought, interrupt the thought, interrupt the thought. And I hear myself saying it. I know what I'm doing. And that allows me to create space between the thought and the reaction so that I can now respond. And that is where in that space is where you begin to put in positive affirmations. Mine is real simple. There are many affirmations that you create. My default is, I can do this. Very simple. I can do this. And initially, I may not even
Doesn't
believe
need
that I can.
anything complicated. It doesn't
Yeah,
need to be complicated.
doesn't need to be
Right.
complicated. Because what happens with me is initially I'm saying, I can do this, I can do this. And then there is a surge in energy. I can do this. Now I'm getting some
Right.
attitude.
Right.
Then there is even more. Not only can I do that, I am doing this.
I'm
How
doing
dare
this. Right. Right.
you?
Like I
And
started, we are doing this.
yes,
We're not
yes.
trying. We are doing this.
So, in answer to that question that you asked, whose responsibility is it? As a child, you don't have that power. As an adult, you do. Now that you have
Mm-hmm.
knowledge, it is your responsibility. So you are in a space where you can continue to blame them on the outside of you
Mm-hmm.
for whatever your reality is, or you can be accountable to yourself, doesn't matter about them, and take
Mm-hmm.
responsibility for creating the life that you want. So the fifth part of my program is to recreate yourself. I reinvented myself a million times. But as long as you're here, the great thing about being alive is you get to reinvent yourself every second if that's what you choose.
So let's go over the four ways of breaking the old habits. You said reflection. It's five. You said five. You say
Well,
reflection.
I was giving you the phases of my program, but
Okay.
to break a habit and create a new habit is really, when I say simple, I don't mean that it's simple like that. I mean the steps. So first is to have an awareness. What is the habit
Okay.
that you want to break? The second is
Mm-hmm.
to interrupt the pattern,
Mm-hmm.
interrupt the
So
thought.
awareness, interrupt the pattern. Mm-hmm.
And then the third is to install a new thought. This is where you get
Install
to
a new thought.
reprogram. Mhm.
Exactly.
And then you must practice, 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 practice. And my mama always said, practice does not make perfect, but it sure as hell
Practice
makes
makes
better.
you do things better.
That's right.
And
That's
at
right.
that point, we're going to take a short break. We will return in just a moment. We are taking a short break. Don't go anywhere. We're still with Dr. Sue.
I'm Kalada Taylor. I'm super excited to announce I am keynoting at the Voice Masters Conference in Plantation, Florida, November 1st. This is where echoes of greatness and no more flinching collide. Also, be sure to get your autographed copy of my best-selling book, No More Flinching, 5 Steps to Overcoming Adversity. So, what do you need to do November 1st? Get to Plantation, Florida. It is going to be an amazing event. And listen, don't take my word for it. Find out for yourself. I'll see you soon. And don't forget about getting your tickets and seeing me win November 1st. See you soon.
Okay, and so we're back again with Dr. Sue as we wrap up our program. I will have to bring her back to I will have to bring her back. Her mind, the way her mind is created, because it wasn't developed like that, she created it. We need to learn so we can do the same for ourselves. And it takes more than 40 minutes to do that. A woman with such knowledge, she has to come back. But Dr. Sue, here is another question for you. What advice would you give to someone standing at the edge of their purpose, but they are afraid to
Mm,
take that leap?
mm. Oh God, that gives me chills. I think that fear is just the flip side of success. In terms of the emotions that you feel, the energy that you feel within your body, it is the same thing, the same energy. I think that we have been programmed to fear failure. I do not believe. Now, for many, many years, I did think of failure. I did believe that there could be such a thing as failure. I no longer believe that. I
Mm-hmm.
would tell the person that when you, okay, the president was never the president until he or she became the president. And so there always is a
Exactly.
sense of inadequacy. There always is some measure of imposterism. Can I do this? Am I good enough? What if I fail? Lean into it, because when you have those thoughts and you lean into, understand that those thoughts simply reflect the edge of your growth. That's
Mm-hmm.
where you have grown to date. You lean
Mm-hmm.
into it and kind of fall over, right? Because that's what's going to take you
Mm-hmm.
into your greatness. We
Right.
all have, there's greatness within each of us. I
Mm-hmm.
believe that greatness is your birthright. It is your birthright. Society has programmed that out of you. I'm standing on my bandwagon, y'all. I'm just saying, society has programmed it out of you. I want you to reach out there and get it, because the only thing that stands between you and your greatness is your mind. Your mind. And you
Your
have
mind.
the power to change it every time. And
Yeah,
now you have the steps.
it's something that I share with anyone who is willing to listen. The most powerful tool that you have is your mind. It's your mind. That's the most powerful tool that you have. You spoke a little bit about spirituality when it comes to the mindset. How can spirituality practices, or should I say, not spirituality, but spiritual practices. How can spiritual practices and mastery work together to create that transformation that we need in order to become successful at that one
I,
thing
re-
that we need to be successful in?
I think of the spirituality and mind mastery as really being one and the same, because spirituality is connecting with your oneness. It is connecting with what I call the I am, that is the creator. And mind mastery simply is coming back home to your true self. Who am I? Who did the creator create me to be? And that's who I am. And I'm focusing all of my energies on being that person. And going back to what I just said, greatness is your birthright. Wrap your mind around that. And regardless of what
Right,
anybody
right.
else says to you, you have to go within. This is your spirit lies within. Your mind has been cluttered with excess garbage from outside of you.
Mhm.
Now what we're
Right.
talking about is detoxing that so that you can return to your true self, which is that part of you that knows. We all have a part of us that knows that we are designed for greatness.
The next thing I want you to share with our audience, Dr. Sue, is how can we align our goals with our true calling?
Mm. I know that most people are, well, I'll say many people. Many people will say, I don't know how to meditate, or I can't sit quietly, or I just get all anxious. But before you can align with your true calling, you just got to sit quietly and hear what it is that the divine has for you. The voice doesn't come from outside, it comes from within.
And
And when you are listening to what your mama said, and no disrespect to mamas, because I'm one, but when you listen to what your mama said, what your daddy said, what your brother said, what your friend said,
right.
that's a lot of noise you can't hear. But the creator, by whatever name you call him, her, it, has created you for a very specific purpose. You got to go within and get quiet in order to hear that. One
Mm-hmm.
of the things that you can, just from a practical standpoint, when we think about purpose, when I, okay, so y'all, I tell on myself because this is who I am. I'm 74. I can say what I want to say. I believe that we are all divine beings. I believe that
Mm-hmm.
I'm one with my creator, which is God. That's who I grew
Right.
up with.
Right.
I believe that we all have within us the God spark. And I
Mm-hmm.
believe that when we sit quietly, then God speaks to us.
Right.
Sit with intention. If you must, have just one question, not a whole slew, but just one question that you may write down before you sit in the silence. We make
Mm-hmm.
appointments to get our hair done, our teeth done, our feet done. Make a divine appointment with your creator
Later.
and just sit still and see. You may have to do it more than once, but see what it is that speaks to you. And related to that, when you do things, the things that you're doing right now in your life, what is it that gives you joy? What
Oh,
is it? And I know this is a question that people ask all the time, but it's a true question. What would you do if you did not get paid? What would you do? What, like, as I have been having this conversation with you, there have been so many times I've just gotten chills because I know I just feel
yes,
spirit
yes.
moving through me, right?
Y-
And
Even
so,
though you
what?
just not to stop you, but even though you just said one thing, think back about think what 5 years ago, 2020, when we had COVID, so many persons found their joy. So many
Yeah,
persons found their passion. So many persons were able to do the things that allow them to feel fulfilled, because guess what? They weren't being paid. So you said something just now that brought me way back to 5 years ago. because for so many person today, what happened to them 5 years ago is what is making them better today.
You've got to be willing to sit and and turn a blind ear to what other people are saying, and or a non-hearing ear. And it's not that you don't respect them, but their purpose is not your purpose. And when I sat with God and I said, explain to me please about purpose, because so many of my clients are one of the first questions that they have is, what is my purpose? The answer that I got is that you're always in purpose. You are always in purpose. Purpose is like a river and it flows. um, when you are young and the things that you're doing as a child, that is your purpose at that time. At each phase of your life, you're in purpose. What we want to know oftentimes when we say, what is my purpose, is what is my one purpose? What is the one thing that I am here to do? Don't limit God like that. Don't do that. You're not a one-dimensional being. You're not. And so if you look at your life, you will find that there's a golden thread that runs throughout everything that you've done. It may be you've done various things, but there's one thing that has been with you since the very beginning. For me, it was to accept that I am a teacher. I teach. That's what I do. My mama used to tell me when I was a child, you're going to be a teacher. And I'd say, oh, no, I'm going to be anything but that. Oh, no, I don't want to do that. I'm a lawyer. I'm a professor. I've been teaching. I have been teaching all of my life since I was a child. I just didn't recognize the golden thread until many years later. But when you're sitting in the silence in your divine appointment, think about what you've done that has given you happiness, that's given you joy, that you would do even if you didn't get paid. That is your purpose. And what you'll find is that that purpose can exist in multiple ways. It's not just a one thing. The one thing is the thread, but there are many iterations.
And with that powerful close, we will end this show. I'm sure our audience would like to hear more from you, and we will give you more. But hey, wow, thank you for taking this virtual coach and to be talking to us in this way and to be sharing. I've learned a lot today. But before we close out, how can our audience, let me share your website here, how can our audience reach out to you? You spoke about your program. How can they sign up? Tell me a little bit about what you offer, how our audience can connect with you so that they can continue discussion with you, or even check out some of your programs that will help them to lead a more successful life.
I do one-on-one coaching. I work primarily with women. However, my program is universal, and I've worked with men as well. My website is under construction. My actual website is under construction. I am using LinkedIn as a temporary website, so you can find my contact information there. You can contact me via Messenger. If you will simply put my name in Google, it brings Google me and you will
So, in
find
other
me.
words, audience, Google her. Just
Google
Google her.
me. You'll find my CV. You'll find anything you need to contact me. But right now, I'm doing a lot on LinkedIn. This weekend coming up, I am going to be doing a virtual presentation for a Love Mastery retreat. And that will the retreat is actually going to be in Atlanta, but I'm doing my part virtually, and it is about how to stop living. Well, by the time this shows, I'm not going to even go into this because by the time this shows, it will be over. But I've got some other things coming up. My book is coming out by the end of the year, From Mastering Your Mind to
Awesome.
Mastering Your Life, A Woman's Guide to
Oh,
Purpose and Self-Empowerment. I'm excited, really excited. Thank you
awesome.
so much for having
Please
me.
let us know when it comes out. Please let us know when it comes out because we would like to share with our audience and of course would like to get our copy as well. But I want to thank you again, Dr. Sue, for joining us in this way. What an incredible and enlightening conversation we had today. The mind mastery architect. Yes, you are. My mind was mastered, but like I said, it wasn't for me, it was for my audience. But I was so intrigued by the things you were sharing. Your wisdom, Dr. Sue, reminds us that true power begins within, and that when we master our minds, we will unlock the freedom to create the life we truly desire.
Absolutely.
Now, you've also shared with us how to connect and learn more about your transformational work. You spoke about your book coming up. But thank you for joining us on this episode of the Voice Masters podcast, Beyond the Voices, where we empower voices and inspire change. If today's discussion resonated with you, audience, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more conversation that will uplift and transform you. Beyond the Voices, where impact meets inspiration. Thank you, Dr. Sue.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.